Cops aren't exactly handing out rule books on how they work, but I'm telling you, there's a lot they'd rather you didn't know. Like how they can legally lie to you, or what actually happens if you refuse a search. I'm Mike with List25, and today I'm counting down tricks cops don't want you to know, starting with the question they ask just to get you to confess without even realizing it. Now, let's get one thing clear before I dive in. I'm not saying everyone's a criminal and police aren't the bad guys, but for today's list, I'm taking a look at some of the tactics they're allowed to use. For instance, you should know that when a cop pulls you over and casually asks, "Do you know why I stopped you?" It's not just small talk. It's a loaded question designed to get you to confess to something, even if they don't have solid evidence yet. A lot of people panic and blurt out a guess like, "Was I speeding?" Or, "I didn't mean to run the stop sign," thinking it'll score points for honesty. It doesn't. It just hands them an easy confession they can use against you. The smartest move? Keep it polite and say, "No, officer." That way, you're not giving them anything to work with. But they're not always fishing for words. Sometimes they're fishing for permission, too. If a cop asks, "Mind if I take a look in your car?" They might sound friendly, but don't be fooled. If you say yes, you've just given up one of your biggest protections. In 1973, the Supreme Court ruled that police don't have to tell you that you can refuse a search, and cops have used this rule ever since. They know most people feel nervous or pressured and say yes, even when the officer has no warrant or probable cause. And once you agree, anything they find is fair game. So don't guess, don't assume. Politely refuse the search and force them to meet the legal standard. And just because you say no doesn't mean they'll stop. It usually means they'll start bluffing. Sticking with my example of being pulled over, you should know one of a cop's favorite tricks is giving you what sounds like an order. They'll say something like, "I need you to pop the trunk," or "If you don't let us in, we'll just get a warrant." It feels official, but it's really a maneuver disguised as authority. Threatening to apply for a warrant is legal if they've got some reason, but pretending they already have one is illegal. They're betting you'll cave without realizing you can refuse. Don't fall for it. If they truly had evidence of your guilt, they wouldn't need your permission. Of course, when words and pressure aren't enough, they might just invent a reason to search anyway. Should a police officer ever walk up to you on the street and start chatting, doesn't mean you're stuck there. If you're not being detained or arrested, you have every right to leave. The thing is, they are not required to tell you that. And a lot of officers won't. They'd rather you feel unsure and stick around. If you're not sure what's happening, politely ask, "Am I being detained?" If the answer is no, or if they dodge the question, you can walk away. You're not being rude. You're using your rights. Because sometimes all it takes is one tiny mistake to give them exactly what they need to go through everything you've got. Another sneaky method police employ is the knock and talk. You could also be sitting at home minding your own business when suddenly there's a knock at the door. It's the police. No warrants, no paperwork. They're just there for a friendly chat. They'll act like you have to open the door or let them in, but you don't. Without a warrant or some kind of emergency, they're just regular visitors knocking. You can talk through the door or step outside, but don't invite them in. If you do, anything they see or smell in plain view can be used against you. Stay polite, but firm. No warrant, no entry. And remember, whether it's at your door, your car, or out on the street, their goal is the same. Find a way in. And if they can't talk their way there, they might just switch tactics and find a reason to arrest you instead. Here's a pro tip you probably wouldn't think of. If you're worried about police getting their hands on your phone, make sure to switch off fingerprint or Face ID. It might make logging in quicker, but there's a dangerous loophole. Police cannot demand to know your passcode. A passcode is private information, but biometrics are not considered protected testimonial evidence. Police have forced their use of a suspect's thumbprint already, and the courts allowed it. So, time to switch back to the passcode system. I know what you're thinking, but it's so much more time consuming. Well, so is being in prison. Getting into a he said, she said contest with an officer will never end well. This is where your phone is your strongest tool. On the street, grabbing your phone to film a police interaction can make a solid piece of evidence. If there's any misconduct or dispute, there will be a silent, objective witness. In a traffic stop, the same applies. Set up your phone on the dashboard or passenger seat before an officer approaches, click record, and hope for the best. You know those giant body scanners at airports? They give a giant detailed picture of your body to the TSA. It's basically a virtual strip search. But there's no other option, right? Wrong. You are legally allowed to refuse to go through the body scanner. Instead, you'll have to be patted down manually and may have to wait a little longer, but for some people, privacy is worth the wait. Saying no to a field sobriety test doesn't have anything to do with guilt. When pulled over, you do have the right to say no to one. And to be honest, these tests can be unreliable. Not everyone acts the same way when intoxicated, and in fact, it's normal to act a little strange under pressure. A chemical test, on the other hand, is usually required, but at least that's accurate. The best way to outsmart cops is by knowing the law, and one law you are likely to need is stop and ID. These are laws that say you must show identification if you've been stopped under reasonable suspicion of committing a crime. The thing is, these laws differ depending on which state you live in. For example, here in Florida, you do have to show ID. In California, though, you don't, unless you have been lawfully detained or arrested. So, read your state's laws and memorize them. Sometimes a tiny thing like a broken taillight, yes, we're back to being in cars, or a missing insurance card is enough for an officer to flip the whole situation. If they really want to search you or your car but don't have the legal grounds, they might arrest you for something small just to make it happen. And yes, the Supreme Court signed off on this. In Atwater v. Lago Vista, 2001, a woman got handcuffed and hauled to jail for not wearing her seatbelt, a violation that normally just gets a fine. Once you're under arrest, even for something small, police can search you and parts of your car without a warrant. If it happens to you, don't resist. It won't help. Keep your cool, say as little as possible, and get a lawyer. Now, if arresting you doesn't seem like the right move, well, there's another classic trick they'll pull out next. Let's say you've done everything right so far. Stayed calm, stayed polite, refused the search. The next move some officers love to pull is claiming they smell something illegal. I smell weed, they'll say, even if you've never touched the stuff. And in a lot of places, well, that's all they need to start searching your car without asking, again. Courts usually back them up because smell is considered a probable cause. It's not fair, but it's hard to argue in the moment. If it happens, don't argue. Just hold your ground politely and take mental notes. Or better yet, record the encounter, because once that happens, you're building a case for later. Which brings me to our next one. Some officers will confidently tell you something that just isn't true. Like, it's illegal to film police, hand me your phone. Or, if you stay quiet, that's obstruction. Neither of those are true. You have the right to record public officials doing their jobs, and you have the right to stay silent, as long as you're not physically getting in the way. So if an officer makes a big threat, stay collected, ask if you're free to go, and don't unlock or hand over anything you don't legally have to. Then again, if scaring you on the spot doesn't work, their next move might be to invite you into their turf. If an officer ever says, hey, why don't you just come on down to the station to clear things up, treat that like a giant red flag. You're not under arrest, but once you're inside that little room, it sure won't feel voluntary. They don't have to read you your Miranda rights if you show up on your own, and a lot of people end up talking themselves into serious trouble. Police use the setup, the closed room, the ploy, to get you talking without all the protections you'd normally have. If they ask you in, ask back, am I a suspect? And can I bring a lawyer? If they dodge, well, you have your answer. But you don't even have to walk into a station for things to get tricky. Officers can also say, you're not under arrest, we just want to talk, and start asking questions right where you are. Since it's just a chat, they skip the Miranda warning. But every word you say is still fair game. A lot of people let their guard down thinking, well, if they didn't Mirandize me, well, this doesn't count. Trust me, it absolutely does. Police might even hold off on arresting you just to keep you talking. So if it feels like an interrogation, treat it like one. Stay calm, stay polite, and don't answer anything serious without a lawyer. Because the minute you start hinting you want a lawyer, the pressure game shifts into overdrive. The Fourth Amendment is the part of the Constitution that guarantees police officers can only search you if they have a legitimate reason. And that reason usually means a warrant. You might think, I have nothing to hide, so why would I refuse? But you can never be certain what officers are looking for, and whether something might match some description related to an investigation. It's safest to ask to see a warrant. Now, there are important exceptions. If you have something illegal that's easily visible, like in your back seat, then police have the right to search your vehicle. Get familiar with what should be your favorite part of the Constitution, the Fifth Amendment. Thanks to these 108 magical words, Americans have the right to remain silent. That means that if down the line you are in front of a jury, the police can't point to this and use it as a sign of guilt. Silence isn't an admission, and in many cases, it's just being smart. Whatever answer you give during a police interaction could be used to further investigate you. It's important to keep a level head. Don't try to provoke, but make it known that you are exercising your Fifth Amendment right. For decades, theories have circulated about cops planning throwaway weapons on people as an excuse to arrest them. Or worse. There is some truth to it. A Baltimore police sergeant was caught planting a BB gun on a suspect, and it was allegedly part of a strategy followed by an entire task force to justify potential shootings. Most police now use body cams, but even so, make sure you verbalize everything you are doing so it can never be misunderstood as reaching for a weapon. You've seen this tactic in the movies, but once you're thrown into a high-stress situation, it might still work. One officer plays the bad cop to pressure you, and another plays the good cop to give you someone to trust. The thing to remember is that these two are on the same team. They have the same goal. They're colleagues and might be having a beer together later in the day. You, on the other hand, might still be sitting in police custody at that time. Probable cause. This is the only way your car can be pulled over by police legally. In plain English, it means having a good reason to suspect you of committing a crime, like ignoring traffic signals or driving erratically. And you are allowed to know what this is. Ask the officer what they suspect you of. Because without probable cause, even if they do find some dirt on you, the evidence probably can't be used in court. The minute you even hint that you might want a lawyer, some officers will switch gears fast. They'll say things like, a lawyer's just gonna slow us down, or if you lawyer up, I can't help you. They might even throw in a guilt trip. Innocent people usually don't mind talking. It's a tactic, and a good sign you should absolutely stop talking. They know that once you bring in a lawyer, their job gets a lot harder. So, here's the move. Don't waffle. Don't ask, should I get a lawyer? Just say, I want a lawyer. That one sentence slams the brake on questioning, legally. Either way, after all that stalling, the next phase is pure psychology. Just as Ursula said, never underestimate the importance of body language, because body language can provide an excuse to punish you. If you're pulled over or questioned, try to avoid doing anything that could even remotely antagonize the officers. As ridiculous as it sounds, try not to roll your eyes or use sarcasm, though I'm sure you'll be really good at that. Sorry. Back in 2018, a man was thrown in jail for allegedly rolling his eyes at a judge, so this wouldn't be the first time. As a general rule of advice in life, do not stare at anyone for too long. It can be seen as aggressive, and this applies doubly for cops. Don't eyeball them for too long, or they might decide to start asking you questions. They are doing their job. Leave it to them. I've been on a dealing with cops binge lately, and it seems that many people get in trouble when trying to come up with legal arguments. Dropping case law or Supreme Court decisions is usually not a great strategy. More likely than not, it'll come off like you're trying to antagonize the officer. Save that for the courtroom, and stick to asserting your rights. Now, I've been talking a lot about not giving any unnecessary information away, but that doesn't mean you can outright lie. In fact, this is the worst thing you can do. You can be charged with obstruction of justice. If you repeat it again in court and are found out, perjury is a very serious crime. For Breaking Bad fans out there, think, what would Saul Goodman say? Stay quiet and call a lawyer. In the movies, the police yell out to open up the door, announcing that they have a warrant for your house. That's pretty much how it goes down in real life too. But here's the important point. If they want to search a property, whoever is there has the right to read through the warrant before letting a team of police inside. And actually, they can't force you to open the door either. So ask them to push it underneath first. You've probably seen it in the movies. Good cop, bad cop. It's based on something real called the Reed technique. The idea is simple. Wear you down with isolation, pressure you with accusations, and then offer a way out through a friendly cop who empathizes and understands everything you're going through. It's not about being evil, it's about getting a confession. But the problem is, it doesn't always catch the guilty. It's led to false confessions, like what happened with Na Chuang, a teenager who confessed to a crime she didn't commit. So if the mood in the room suddenly flips from hostile to helpful, it's a strategy. Anyway, if mind games don't crack you, they'll try something even simpler. Pure exhaustion. One of the oldest tactics in the book is simply to wear you down. Some interrogations have dragged on for 12, 18, even 24 hours. And when you're exhausted, stressed, and desperate to sleep, you're a lot more likely to say whatever you think will end it. It's not some movie stunt either. DNA exoneration studies have shown that plenty of false confessions started with endless questioning. The longer they push, the more your memory and judgment take a hit. If you ever feel trapped in a room like that, you have the right to end it. Say, I'm exercising my right to remain silent. I want a lawyer. Then, stop talking. However, once you're tired enough, they might change their tune and offer you a so-called way out. You'll hear things like, help yourself out by confessing, or if you cooperate, the judge will go easy on you. Now, if you're in a heap of trouble, that might sound very tempting. But here's the catch. Police officers can't actually guarantee you anything. Only prosecutors and courts decide what happens, not the officers doing the questioning. Any promise they make isn't binding, and once you confess, you've handed them exactly what they need to charge you. Moving on, here's something a lot of people don't realize. Police officers are legally allowed to lie to you. A lot of people don't realize that here in the US, police are legally allowed to lie to suspects during interrogations. They can say, we found your fingerprints, your friend already gave you up, or there's video of you at the scene, even if none of that's true. To make things worse, in Fraser v. Cupp, 1969, the Supreme Court ruled that lying about evidence doesn't automatically make a confession invalid. The problem? Hearing that they've got proof can make even innocent people panic and confess just to get it over with. Always remember, if an officer says they have enough evidence, there's no benefit in talking. It's not your job to prove them wrong. It's your job to protect yourself. Sticking with bluffs for the moment, made-up fingerprints and fake confessions aren't the only lies you have to watch out for. Now, I've seen videos of police officers getting pretty pissed off with this next tip, so use it carefully. But by law, you do not have to roll down your window the entire way. There just needs to be enough room to pass through your license, insurance, and any other documents the officer asks for. This can help maintain your own safety. However, it is a fine line between doing this and being non-cooperative. You're also expected to follow reasonable orders, so if things start heating up, the best option is to follow directions. Okay, you've been pulled over to the side of the road. Most likely the side in America. I don't know why I went that way. The red and blue lights are flashing in your rearview mirror, and an officer is walking up to your window. A natural question is, what did I do wrong? Great. That's a good question, and one you are legally entitled to know. A number of different cases, like one from 1979 and another from 1996, have set this precedent. Cops must have reasonable suspicion. The only other thing to keep in mind is that they don't have to tell you immediately. Wait patiently, cooperate, and then ask what the problem is. Remember, police are public servants. They are technically working for you and are paid by your taxes. This is why, for the most part, police officers have to identify themselves when asked. Politely ask for their name and badge number and take note. Not only might this be evidence, but it might also help encourage them not to overstep their power. Maybe. You don't want to piss off a police officer. And if you are following the rest of the advice on this list, chances are you might rub one the wrong way. Phrasing. But to try and avoid any retaliation, stay polite but firm. Otherwise, they might make your day very complicated. Remember your rights, verbalize them, and leave the ball in their court. Treat any interaction with police like an interview. They are investigating, looking for evidence, and probably hoping that you'll slip up. It may seem obvious, but don't admit to doing anything illegal. It's tempting to want to be open and honest with an officer, especially if they are investigating an unrelated crime, but this can easily come back to bite you. Your lawyer is going to have their work cut out for them if you immediately spill all the beans. Police officers might tell you that someone picked you up out of a lineup or saw you at the scene, even if no one has. It's totally legal for them to make that up. In People v. Dominic, 1986, detectives told a suspect the victim had ID'd him, even though she hadn't seen any photos yet. And he confessed. Now, lies aside, real eyewitnesses aren't always reliable either. Descriptions change, people mix up details, or they get steered towards a suspect without even realizing it. The bottom line is that just because an officer says someone pointed the finger at you, doesn't mean it's true. Don't let a fake story push you into giving a real confession. And they can lie about your friends too. They might casually say something like, "Your friend already told us everything," like it's no big deal. Suddenly, it's not just about you anymore. You start worrying about loyalty, about who's saying what, about saving yourself. And that's exactly the point. In People v. Dominic, detectives decided to go with this move, telling a suspect that his cousin had confessed. He hadn't, but just hearing it got the suspect talking. It's not just lying, it's playing you against the people you trust. Okay, let's talk about how even the way they ask a question can back you into a corner. Not every question is innocent. Some are designed to steer you toward a certain answer without you even noticing. They'll ask you things like, "Did you see the man in black and white overalls?" Not a man, which quietly suggests that guy definitely existed. Loaded questions are even trickier. "What time did you leave in the getaway car?" assumes you were even near the crime. These setups are built to box you in and make you confirm details you might not even know about. If a question feels strange or unfair, that's your sign to slow down, think carefully, or better yet, keep quiet. Unfortunately, not every threat wears a badge or asks official questions. In serious cases, police sometimes plant an undercover officer or informant right next to you, in a jail cell, on the street, or even at work. In cases like these, you might think you're venting to another regular person, but every word is passed straight back to the cops. And it's perfectly legal. In Illinois v. Perkins, 1990, the court decided that Miranda rights do not apply when a suspect unknowingly speaks to an undercover officer. It's a sneaky move because you don't see it coming. The rule here? If you've been arrested or you're caught up in something serious, don't discuss anything with anyone you don't absolutely trust. However, when the police can't reach you directly, they might reach out to someone you'd never suspect. If someone in your circle gets into trouble, police might offer them a deal. "Help us and we'll go easy on you." That could mean wearing a wire, forwarding your texts, or just quietly reporting what you say. In Hoffa v. United States, 1966, the Supreme Court made it clear. If you share something willingly, even with a friend who's secretly an informant, it's fair game. It's a tough reality, but once a secret's out, you've lost control of it. So if someone you know suddenly gets a little too curious about your business, be cautious. Trust matters, but so does knowing when to keep quiet. Since I've covered how people close to you can turn informant, let me talk about how total strangers can do the same thing without ever meeting you. You have the power to make a complaint about your treatment by police officers, and possibly even get some compensation if the police were wrong. But sometimes your words won't be enough. That's why if you're being held in custody illegally, you need to be recording everything you can. And I don't mean with your phone because that'll be taken away. Instead, I'm talking about the who, what, and where. Which officer arrested you? What did they accuse you of? And where were you held? All these details will make it much easier for you to put a case together later. Do yourself a favor and buy a safe for your car. It'll give you that extra layer of security, not only from potential thieves, but also from the police. This method is by no means bulletproof, and it may just make you look more suspicious, but technically, during a traffic stop, police cannot force open a locked container without a warrant or probable cause. And if they decide to break in anyway, it is a dream for a defense attorney. Unlawfully obtained evidence can completely destroy a prosecution's entire case. I said before that your phone is your most powerful protection, but can also carry a ton of evidence against you. Think about all the information, messages, photos, and data your phone contains. Even if you're innocent, when taken out of context, some of that could be used against you. Thankfully, the Supreme Court recognized all this. In 2014, they decided any phone search needed a warrant first. This applies even if you've been arrested. This next scenario is much more intimidating than being pulled over on the road. Sitting inside a police station, surrounded by police, only meters away from spending a night behind bars. Here's the thing. Cops know the environment can be intimidating. So, they won't tell you this. But if you haven't been arrested or detained, you're free to go. Just ask them to tell you clearly if you're being detained. If not, then simply get up and leave. This next tip is probably more relevant now than ever. If you happen to be living here on an immigration visa, then it adds an entirely new dynamic to a police encounter. What if you say the wrong thing? Will you be deported? The good news is police are not allowed to use your immigration status to get you to talk. They can't threaten to have immigration hunt you down. That would constitute coercion, which is against the law. The same applies the other way. Police can't promise you any kind of immigration visa to get you to talk. But in reality, these negotiations do happen. So the best way to deal with them is to ask for a lawyer right away. I've covered how strangers in jail cells and even your own friends can turn on you, but what about people you've never even met? These days, you don't need to be sitting across from someone to get set up. Cops are all over social media, watching public posts, joining private groups, and even sliding in your DMs with fake profiles. That random new follower could be an undercover account gathering evidence. In New York City, officers used fake Facebook profiles to track gang suspects and even made arrests. And it's not just bragging that gets people into trouble. Sarcastic jokes can be twisted too. I think it's safe to say that if you wouldn't say it to a cop's face, well, it's safer not to post it at all. Strange internet stings aside, cops still love the old school approach too. Police love a good sting operation. They'll pose as drug buyers, sex workers, or shady dealers to see who bites. Stings are legal, but entrapment, tricking someone into committing a crime they wouldn't normally commit, isn't. The line gets blurry fast. If an officer keeps pushing and begging you to do something illegal, that could count as entrapment. But if you jump at the chance, well, that's on you. There have been some ugly cases where cops pushed vulnerable people way too far. The safest move? If a stranger is too eager to get you to break the law, walk away. Luckily, in most cases, setups aren't complicated, but there are some that can be compared to Hollywood productions. Have you ever heard of the Mr. Big sting? It was dreamed up in Canada, of all places. If you've been targeted, the police don't just target you with an undercover cop, they'll build a whole fake criminal empire around you. You get recruited, sent on fake jobs, paid real money, and treated like you're part of the crew. Then, just when you're feeling all important, you meet Mr. Big, the boss, who says you've got to confess to any serious crimes before you're fully trusted. Under pressure to impress, a lot of people spill everything. Some have even confessed to crimes they didn't commit. Canada's Supreme Court at one point stepped in and said these confessions have to be treated with major skepticism. The US and UK won't even allow stings like this, but they still happen in places like Australia and New Zealand. Alright, now that I've covered how police officers can squeeze suspects, let's talk about how they get information out of witnesses too. And no, they don't just sit them down and ask, what happened? Instead, they use something called cognitive interview. It's all about jogging the memory without pushing too hard. They'll ask about random details, like what the weather was like or what smells were floating around in the air to get the brain working. Sometimes they'll even ask people to recall the events backwards, which sounds weird, but actually helps. It's not about tricking the witness, really. It's about getting more details by loosening up the memory. Still, memories can be messy, and even a confident eyewitness can remember things wrong. Bringing an end to the list, there's one last technique you should know about. It's called a kinesic interview, and it's less about what you say and more about how you say it. While you're answering questions, officers are trained to watch every twitch, glance, and fidget. Slumping in your chair, crossing your arms, rubbing your neck, all of these can be flagged as confession behaviors. Some departments even teach that liars look up and to the left when answering, even though modern research says that's not actually a reliable sign of lying. Still, these old school tactics get used all the time. The real takeaway? If you're ever questioned, remember, police aren't just listening to your words. They're reading you. And after everything we've covered today, you can see just how much they're trained to spot or create an advantage. Did you know that your brain cancels out things so you can't see them? A great example of this is when you stare at a grid formation and experience the elusive black dot illusion. Despite there being a number of black dots on the grid, they will appear and disappear, blinking on and off. Why does this freaky trick of the mind happen? Well, it's because your brain can't cope with looking at them all at once. When you focus on one, your peripheral vision isn't strong enough to process the surrounding information. All it sees is the white of the grid, so the dots disappear. You simply won't be able to see all the dots at the same time, so don't even try, because that is a one-way ticket to eye strain. Now, you can't rely on your eyes, so it seems, but surely your arms won't let you down, right? Or left? You can make your arms move on their own involuntarily. How do you do this? The so-called floating arm trick involves a door frame and a little bit of a workout. You'll need to put the backs of your hands on either side of the frame, then start pushing on the frame for 30 seconds. Okay, so where's the illusion? When you relax your arms, they'll proceed to lift into the air like you're some kind of meat puppet. This happens because of something called a neuromuscular reaction. Your neuromuscular system is basically how your nerves and muscles are joined up. A direct line between your brain and your muscles, you could say. Your muscles keep going for a short time following the door push. But don't worry, it doesn't last forever. Remember to take it easy if you want to try this one for yourself. You don't want to pull a muscle over some crazy illusion. Although it's kind of funny that I mentioned puppets earlier because our next trick is literally named after one. Blindfolding someone can create surprisingly powerful illusions. Some, like the Pinocchio illusion, lead people to believe their body is changing shape. Specifically, that their nose is growing longer, just like it did with the famous character. If your vision is blocked out and you touch your nose, you become very susceptible to vibrations. Experts have found that by tapping the bicep of a blindfolded person in this position, the body processes this feeling by elongating your nose, which isn't actually happening, it just feels like it is. No strings attached for this next story, just good old-fashioned mind games. It is one of the oldest tricks in the book. From street magicians to TV magic specials, we've all seen the witch hand illusion. The illusionist asks someone to conceal a coin or similar object in their left or right hand before guessing which hand they're holding it in, using what appears to be uncanny psychic ability. Uncanny ability, yeah right. This is a cool trick for sure, however, it's more focused on cold hand reality than amazing superpowers. You can subtly influence someone to use a particular hand, you can read their body language to catch them out, and you can even use a device that reveals the hand they've got a metal object in. There are various methods of getting that wow factor, making this a popular and accessible mind trick to try at home. Now from left and right to A to Z. Brain training is a well-known term, helping people to improve their memory and general awareness in the old noggin. The alphabet memory test, or alphabet technique, is a system of remembering important information using a combination of the alphabet and visual cues. It works by connecting letters of the alphabet to specific images. So you might think the letter B and picture an actual B. Or you might link the image and letter by how they sound. For example, the letter N could be represented by a door or an entrance. Get it? So, what can you remember using this system? Well, names are good. Take Ryan Gosling. You can have a sequence of pictures like a rye bread, followed by an entrance, followed by someone going somewhere, and finally an arm in a sling. You see? Alternatively, you could look at a photo of Ryan Gosling, but where would be the fun in that? Now I've talked about keeping your brain healthy, but how about your gut? Veggies aren't just great for your gut health. They can be used for mind tricks too. A cool game is to ask someone to name a vegetable. So go ahead, pick a vegetable. What's so cool about that? Well, because you can predict what they're going to answer. Does it work through some freaky veggie-based telepathy? Of course it doesn't. What this trick does rely on, however, is the tendency of people to think of a carrot when asked about vegetables in general. It's just one of those strange life facts that the majority of people associate the idea of a vegetable with the humble carrot. They probably watched too many Bugs Bunny cartoons as a kid or something. It might look like you're an illusionist, but really you just know a handy fact about carrots. If you like a soggy, watery sandwich, then you must be one of the 1%. For the rest of us, there's an easy fix to prevent soggy sandwiches. Simply place ingredients like sliced tomato or cucumber between 2 layers of paper towels for 5 minutes to reduce the amount of water seeping out. Cucumbers are gross. Mike hack, don't use cucumbers. Ew. This will absorb any excess moisture before you add them to your sandwiches. Spreading butter, cheese, or mayo on the bread first will also help act as a barrier to protect your bread from the more watery ingredients. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know people are gonna go, but it doesn't taste like anything in that exact voice, which is weird. Exactly. It doesn't taste like anything. So in the middle of my sandwich, or my biggest pet peeve of that is I have to get it in sushi, no cucumber. I would sub it for avocado. Just in the middle of my food is a taste void of nothingness. I don't want that. Cucumber's gross. I love pickles. Mike hack. No cucumbers. You're welcome. Forget about meaty fingers and ugly misshapen meatballs. Use an ice cream scoop for portioning your minced beef mixture and you'll always wind up with that perfect spherical end product that's uniform in size. If you're scared to try it out, we rounded up an easy how-to. Simply put part of the meatball mixture in one hand and use a scooper to make equal-sized meatballs to place on your baking sheet or inside your pan. After scooping, gently roll them in your hands to form round meatballs. You can lightly moisten your hands with water to keep the meatballs from sticking while rolling. And voila. When it's time to butter your buns, leaving butter sitting on the counter for 60 minutes, isn't ideal. Especially if you're on a tight schedule. My God, I think this was done on purpose. To expedite the process, you can use a cheese grater to turn that butter into smaller pieces. Or a rolling pin, but first place it in a plastic bag to thin it out. If you prefer a more civilized approach, you can cut a stick of butter into around 8 pieces. Creating more surface area and airflow will allow the stick to soften faster. Buttering your buns, making your stick soften faster, that's what we're good at here. You've probably heard that a bit of lemon juice can keep apple slices and other cut fruit looking more appetizing. 1 part honey to 2 parts water works similarly without the sour taste of, lemon juice. If you wondered why lemon juice works, well, we've searched for the scientific answer and discovered it. Lemon juice's citric acid, vitamin C, and honey peptide inhibit the oxidation process that causes discoloration. Soda water has been shown to do the exact same thing, so you now have more than one option to keep your fruit salad looking pretty. Because kiwis are small and delicate, the fruit, not the bird, using a the New Zealand people, using a standard paring knife or vegetable grater could easily ruin your fruit and remove significantly more flesh than you had envisioned. Again, not the bird or the people from New Zealand. Instead, slice off both the tough ends of the kiwi and scoop out the middle with a spoon. I can't get through this now. The spoon's form exactly resembles that of the kiwi, delicately releasing the sour-sweet treasure from its skin. Remember your dash of soda or honey to keep it fresh and beautiful until you're ready to eat it. Have you ever been in the middle of making a delicious soup or stew only to discover that it's overly salty? We've all been there. Trying to artfully dust a sprinkling of salt over our boiling soup or stew, but ending up accidentally pouring most of the pot's contents. In the future, don't worry. We found the perfect food hack to save your meal. Should this happen, simply peel and add 1 to 2 whole potatoes to your pot and let it cook. Once the potato's been boiled, remove it and you're done. Normal salt levels will have been restored. Can you use those potatoes to make French fries? Or are they wasted now? Only one way to find out. Let us know in the comments below. You do it, not me. Your friends are bound to be impressed because with this trick, it looks like you're pushing a coin through a glass without the glass breaking or anything. How it works is you place a coin in your palm and bump the bottom of the glass up and down on your palm. After a while, it'll magically appear in the glass like it went straight through. What the heck is going on here? Well, actually, it's pretty simple. The hand you hold the glass with is hiding a lot of the trickery, but first I need to talk about what your other hand is doing. By briefly turning your coin hand upside down, taking care to keep hold of the coin, you can work the coin to the tips of your fingers. Then, when you flip your hand up the other way and start with the glass, the movement should bounce the coin so it flies up and lands in the glass. People won't notice that, though, due to the way your other hand is right over the brim of the glass. If you think that's mind-blowing, wait till you see what's coming up next. The trick that I'm about to talk about exploits the way we hear things. You may think we perceive sound using only our ears, but no, we actually also use our eyes. So how does that work? Well, that's where the McGurk effect comes in, named after Harry McGurk, the psychologist who helped discover it. It shows how contrasting visuals and audio can give people the wrong idea about what they're hearing. A classic example is a video of someone saying "ba," kind of like a sheep. If you keep the audio "ba" and swap the visual for someone saying "ga," the effect is incredible. Here, check it out. Ba, 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 ba. Your ears can be messed with, and so can your eyes. Most people recognize the color red unless they're colorblind. However, would you recognize the color red if it were blue? I'm sorry, what? I'm talking about the Stroop test, where people are asked to name the color of the ink. Let's say the word red is printed in blue ink, and you had to say what the color of the ink was real fast. Would you say red or blue? A lot of people would get confused and say red, even though the word is written in blue. This mind trick is a little more mind-bending than most. Also, in case you're wondering, there was an actual person called Stroop who the test was named after. Stick a fork in this next trick, because it's done. Look at this drawing and tell me what you see. It looks like the end of a fork, doesn't it? Well, people call this drawing the impossible trident, but why is it impossible? Well, you may have noticed that it's making your eyes feel a little funny, especially if you concentrate on the middle prong. Those three long shapes don't seem to add up, do they? The design appears to go against the rules of perspective, hence why it's called impossible. It's kind of two-dimensional, but your brain keeps trying to see it in 3D. Another name for this illusion is the devil's tuning fork, which makes sense because the drawing has a pretty warped effect on your mind. Sticking with the cutlery theme, I'm going to go from forks to spoons. Spoon bending is a classic illusion where a spoon is held at the neck and rotated between the person's fingers until it changes shape. Some practitioners claim that it's a real thing and that the spoon is being bent by the power of the mind. In actuality, the spoon has either been physically bent without people noticing it, or it looks as if it's bending when it's not. The spoon can also be pre-bent, by which I mean it's been manipulated beforehand so it becomes more flexible for the demonstration. Well, that's the big scoop when it comes to bending spoons. Time to hit the decks! As in a deck of cards. I was gonna grab a cheese grater for this one, but I don't know where I lost my cheese grater. I don't know how that was possible. Are you fed up with cheese clinging to the grater? The first technique is to place your block of cheese in the freezer for 15 minutes before grating to harden it up and make it simpler to shred. Part of the reason for smushed cheese is heat created by grating friction. Science. Before grating the cheese, spray it with cooking oil or lightly cover the grater with oil or butter. This will result in a harder surface that is less likely to stick. The little curls will fall off the grater like nobody's business, leaving you with delicious cheese. Still can't believe I lost a cheese grater. How does one lose a cheese grater? I don't have a hack for that. Deviled eggs, anyone? It may be a protein treat, but those obstinate eggshells can be extremely difficult to remove. Here are a few pointers if you love a boiled egg but need help with removing the shells. Begin by cooking the eggs in boiling water. Yes, how you prepare them does matter. Once cooked, immerse your eggs in an ice-cold bath for a few minutes to cool completely. Then gently fracture the shells and peel them off in the water or under a cold running faucet. Do you ever get an overpowering longing for ice cream only to find it frozen solid in your freezer? Probably not this one. The good news is that there's a simple solution. Put your ice cream container in a plastic bag, squeeze out all the air and seal it tightly. By keeping the air out, your ice cream will stay delightfully soft while preventing freezer burn. You can also cover the ice cream with wax paper before putting it back in the freezer. Wax paper barriers also prevent freezer burn. You know what also prevents freezer burn? Eating all your ice cream in one sitting. I'm having fun with this list. Sorry. Hashtag sorry, not sorry. What a stupid hashtag. Don't get me started on that. Well, now I have to finish it or else it's going to melt while I do the rest of the list. You guys want to watch me finish ice cream? Oh, okay. No. Okay. While we're on the topic of ice cream, I need to know. Do you guys bite your ice? You want weird Mike facts? How do you eat your ice cream? Do you like... Oh, God, I can't believe I'm doing this on the internet. Do you... It fits with the rest of the list. Do you lick it? Do you go... Are you one of those? Or do you like bite and chew? Because that's me. Like literally, I guess turn away if you're sensitive. I can literally jam my teeth. All right. I have no problem with that. I bite and chew my ice cream. So, let me know in the comments. Hashtag liquor or chewer. Oh God, this list is getting out of hand so quickly. In what might be our favorite hack of the day, we would like to let you know that you get more juice from any citrus fruit if you warm them up before squeezing them. I promise. Try it out by microwaving your favorite fruits for 20 to 30 seconds, then slicing and juicing them like you normally would. The heat from the microwave causes the cells within the fruit to rupture, releasing more of the delicious juice. Also try rolling them back and forth with your palm before juicing to help break down the fruit's membranes and allow even more juice to flow. Pour your pancake ingredients into a squeezy bottle and squeeze into the pan for perfect pancakes. Using a squeezy bottle gives you excellent control over the amount of batter you pour and the size of the pancake. If you feel inventive, you can use your pancake batter to create fun designs such as swirls, hearts, and other shapes. Our top tip, if you have yet to hear it, mix in some soda water with your pancake mix. Adding a splash of fizzy water to your batter can make or break it. The result is a light, fluffy pancake that just melts in your mouth. The question, is this your card, has been associated with magicians and magic tricks for years, but how do these people know what card you've selected from the pack in the first place? As usual, things are not what they seem. A magician can put a mark on the card so they know which one you're holding, though that's only part of the puzzle. There's a whole deck of cards, and we need to pick that exact card for the trick to succeed. Well, the magician can subtly direct you to select a particular card. They can even use math to calculate what card you'll go for. They have a whole bunch of tricks up their sleeves, which makes sense because they're magicians. Once you know the basics, you too can fool your friends. You'll struggle to see the trick with mind reading, and this next one is worse because it seems to make things invisible. Tricksters can claim that they made an object disappear or become invisible. Of course, they don't have actual magic powers. Or at least I hope they don't, because they're definitely going to be coming after me after revealing all their secrets. Anyway, my paranoia aside, how do magic acts manage to make objects vanish into thin air? One way is by the skillful use of mirrors, which convinces people that they're looking at an empty space when in fact there's something there, but the light is simply being redirected by the glass. See, your eyes can see things in an incredible amount of detail, however, they also tend to accept what is right in front of them. Magicians take advantage of that to bend the light and present a false picture of their activities. Holy smokes, this next trick is a deeply religious experience. Jesus can give you eye strain? Well, it's possible with this trick. This isn't a deliberate thing that Jesus is doing, because surely he'd rather you have healthy eyesight. What the Visions of Jesus illusion does is create an afterimage that hangs around in your eye like a ghost. The trick works by getting an image of Jesus' face, and the image should be either a negative or something with a high contrast. Then you kind of just stare at it the way you would do with those old 3D pictures, although be careful not to strain yourself. After you've done this, you'll see the afterimage, but how is that created? This is down to what's called photochemical activity taking place in your retina, which works together with your brain to see a face that literally isn't there anymore. This next trick is not for those suffering from vertigo, or those who get dizzy easily. What I'm going to do for this next trick is show you a freaky swirly graphic that should play a serious trick on your mind. Look into the center of it for approximately a minute and a half, before getting onto your knees. Do this slowly, because after all, this graphic is pretty intense and you don't want to fall over or anything like that. Once you're on your knees, you'll begin to feel a really weird and unsettling sensation, like you're kneeling on quicksand and sinking into the floor. Don't worry, this will pass. Although be warned, if you feel like you're actually sinking in the floor, then check out your floorboards because you might have woodworm. Now that that explanation is done with, I can move on to the next task. We came across this great advice: if your efforts to create the perfect poached egg always end in disaster. Extravagant disaster. Place a bit of cling film in a bowl, lightly grease the inside, and then crack in an egg. Gather the cling film sides together and close it securely on top. Cook for 2 to 4 minutes in boiling water, depending on the size of the egg as well as how soft you want it. 2 minutes will leave you with a beautifully runny yolk. This has gotten away from me, but it's okay, we're having fun. I'm having fun. Are you having fun? Let me know in the comments below. If not, sorry. Everybody needs an easy 3-ingredient cookie recipe in their lives. For the perfect 3-ingredient peanut butter cookies, add 1 cup of brown sugar, 1 cup of your favorite peanut butter, and 1 egg together in a bowl and mix. Spoon clumps of your mixture onto a prepared baking tray, push them down with a fork, and bake for 15 minutes at 180 degrees Celsius or 375 Fahrenheit. Remove them from the oven as soon as they turn golden brown. I should also mention that these cookies are gluten-free. That makes them an ideal and quick dessert for anyone who's gluten intolerant. Mike's hashtag Mike tips. What did I say it was? Mike hacks? Kind of rhymes with life hacks. 1 ingredient cookie, just eat the dough. Don't even bake it. Just take a spoon. Yeah, you're getting some extra hacks here. If you're still making rice on a stove, the time has come to just move on. Cooking rice in a glass bowl or a jug in the microwave is very easy. Cook for around 15 minutes with 2 cups of water per cup of rice, and remember to add a pinch of salt. Allow it to steam and fluff up by covering it with the dish or lid near the end of the cooking time. You will never have to stir your rice ever again, and burnt pots will be a thing of the past. Although, my girlfriend and their family, they do that, what's it called? It's the burnt pieces. Like, that's like heavily sought after in some cultures. I love the burnt pieces at the bottom. Crispy rice, crunchy rice, something like that. It's delicious. Let's stick to rice for a moment before we move on. We all love rice, but rice has a particular problem. You can't cook it in exact quantities, especially if you have kids at home. Leftovers are common. Microwaves can be helpful when it comes to reheating rice, but ice cubes are the cherry on top. Before reheating the rice in the microwave, place an ice cube on top of it. The ice will not melt, but steam the rice, making it delightfully fluffy and tasty yet again. Not only are egg muffins a great breakfast, snack, or lunchbox treat, but they can also be made with leftover ingredients or a solitary sliver of ham. Chop up ham, red peppers, onions, or mushrooms, and briefly saute before spooning into a greased or prepared muffin tray. Pour over the ingredients and bake for 20 to 25 minutes at 200 Celsius or 390 Fahrenheit, or until your muffins are beautifully puffed up and brown. Be sure to add some cheese if you want to get your family hooked. Finishing a task is often satisfying, but how well do you remember it afterwards? Surprisingly, we recall incomplete tasks better than the ones we completed. This is known as the Zeigarnik effect, discovered by psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik. Now, I'm willing to bet you have a bunch of tasks that you haven't finished. In fact, I bet that you're watching this video instead of doing those tasks. But don't click off, just stay here and learn a little bit more about the Zeigarnik effect. It happens due to these non-completed tasks essentially bothering our brains more than the ones we did already. In this situation, you experience cognitive dissonance where the urge to finish the task conflicts with you sitting there not doing the task you're supposed to be doing. Ever heard the expression, the numbers don't lie? Well, with this mind trick, which is called the 1089 trick, you might think those so-called trustworthy numbers are fooling you big time. This is basically a calculation involving a weird combination of numbers that will always come out to 1089. It works by selecting a 3-digit number, but the thing about that is the numbers, the digits have to be going down from each other, so we're going to take 764. You then need to subtract the reverse version of that number, which for us would be 467. The outcome of that would be 297. You then add 792, in other words, the reverse of 297, and guess what the result is? That's right, it's 1089. So it turns out the numbers aren't lying to you after all. They're just bending your mind. Now, I'm not done with numbers and mind trickery yet. Did you know that 9 is a highly significant number when it comes to mind trickery? If you take a number, any number, it'll give you the number 9 if you multiply it by 9. What do I mean by this? Well, let's take 200. Multiply that by 9 and you get 1800. That's right. You may have already spotted this, but you can get the number 9 back from that 1800. Look at the numbers closely. 1 plus 8 plus 0 plus 0 equals 9. You'll either see this as a way of calculating 9 or a multiple of 9 in whatever answer you get from your calculator. The trick I've got coming up is the ultimate in misdirection. Take a look at these lines and arrows. We can see the direction they're pointing in. I mean, you've got a left and right thing at the top, a left and left at the bottom, and 2 arrows facing inward in the middle. That's all pretty clear. And of course, the lines are all different lengths. Or are they? Well, I'm sorry to tell you that this is a powerful optical illusion called the Mueller-Lyer illusion. Our brains are focusing on the arrows more than the lines, which are in fact the same length. This trick was observed by sociologist Franz Karl Mueller back in the late 19th century. It demonstrates that the way we perceive space and depth can be influenced by the smallest details. The following illusion is far more than just black and white. Black is darker than white. That is one of the most obvious facts in history. In which case, you might want to check out, so to speak, the checker shadow illusion, which fools you with colors of white and gray. It uses the image of a chessboard or checkerboard to show how shadows can play tricks in your mind. An object like a cylinder is placed onto the board, which in turn creates a shadow. The shadow falls across one of the white squares while the gray square stays in the light. Which square do you think is darker? The gray square? Well, it might look that way. However, it's the white square in shadow that's the darker one. All it takes is a different lighting arrangement, and we perceive simple things in an entirely different way. Let's face facts for a face-shaped fact. If you like chocolate croissants or croissants, I have good news. Making your own version at home is spectacularly easy. All you need are some chocolate chips or grated chocolate and some puff pastry. Cut the pastry into squares, then diagonally slice each to make little triangles. Sprinkle chocolate in the center. Hey, chocolate in the center, just like this. Then roll from the wide to the pointed edge and fold to create a crescent-like croissant shape. Brush your croissants with a bit of whisked egg and place in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes at 180 Celsius or 375 Fahrenheit, or until your crust is crisp and slightly golden brown and the chocolate is melted. While I'm on the subject of pastries and all things good, some of you may think I'm exaggerating when I tell you mug cakes will change your life. But I'm talking about a personalized dish of scrumptious cake that can be created in less than 5 minutes. There are countless mug cake variations that you can dream up in your microwave. Experiment with what you have on hand. The best part? There are no dishes to wash and the cakes are ready in minutes. If you think it's too good to be true, I dare you to give it a shot. If you appreciate cake and baked products as much as I do, your sweet tooth has met its match. There's a little bit of magic bestowed on each of us when we order and receive our favorite caffeine drink at our favorite coffee shop. A wonderful calm, even if it's only for a few minutes. We can't bring that magic home, but we can tell you how to have a barista-style coffee moment in the comfort of your own home. Fill a jar halfway with your preferred milk, screw on the lid, and shake. When the foam forms, remove the lid and microwave on high for 30 seconds. Your froth will have doubled in size and be the ideal topping for your home-brewed coffee. I really like that chocolate cream cold brew at Starbucks. It's fantastic. Although my favorite coffee, feel free to steal this. It is a iced coffee. It is a Reese's iced coffee with, it used to be Cold Stone creamer, but they lost the branding, so now it's just like sweet creamer. Oh, it tastes like melted Reese's ice cream. An omelet in a mug might sound weird, but it's quick and easy and leaves you with fewer dishes to wash. Whisk together an egg, 2 egg whites, spices, and some grated cheese or ham. Place the mixture in a greased mug and microwave for 1 minute on high. Stir and cook for another minute on high. While many microwave recipes produce a poor substitute for properly cooked food, microwaved omelet is surprisingly delicate and delicious. If you're aiming to eat healthier, this method of cooking eggs will also significantly cut down on extra fat. Waffle makers aren't just for making waffles. You can make omelets, quesadillas, and best of all, even hash browns in them. Spritz some oil or non-stick spray into your waffle maker first, and simply add your favorite mix. When you prepare hash browns in a waffle maker, you get an even cook, gorgeous crisp on both sides, not to mention a soft, smooth potato interior. And you get all this without having to turn or fuss over the potatoes that might come apart in the pan. People's faces curve outwards, or in other words, they have a convex shape. This mask we're looking at right now looks like it's convex. I mean, it would have to be convex so it could fit over someone's face, right? Actually, it isn't convex at all. It's concave. The mask curves inward, even though it appears to be the opposite. Why does this hollow mask trick work so well? It's because we think we know what we're seeing, and we assume the mask is convex based on what our brain decides. This is a possible reason why some people see the mask as convex despite being told it's not. Who'd have thunk it? Or, in the case of our next trick, who'd have trunk it? How easy do you find it to concentrate? What if I told you, do not imagine a pink elephant? Well, the first thing you're going to do is imagine one. There's actually a name for this situation, which is the pink elephant paradox, or ironic process theory. Ironically, you think of the very thing you're supposed to be ignoring.
It's a weird mind trick for sure, but also a helpful one, because the pink elephant paradox demonstrates the power of intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts can be disturbing, so identifying and seeking help for them is beneficial for your mental health. It isn't just about animals in bizarre colors. Intrusive thoughts can represent problems we're having in our daily lives, so we should address them. Now, I'm feeling a little emotional after that trick, and there's a reason for that. Manipulating someone's emotions can be a bad thing to do. However, it's also a good thing if you do it responsibly and with a person's well-being in mind. Emotional priming is used as a trick, though one that has a potentially positive psychological impact. Priming means preparing someone in advance, with stimuli designed to help them respond emotionally. People struggling with their emotions can take part in exercises where images, sounds, and sensations can produce certain reactions, leading to changes in the way that person approaches their lives. It's a problem-solving thing, though it isn't for everyone. Don't get me wrong, anyone can use emotional priming, but I should stress that this trick is one you should do with a qualified expert to help you. Did you know if you said something fast enough, you could totally fool someone? People who claim to have psychic abilities are probably lying. The reason we know they're lying is because there are tricks and techniques they use to give you the impression that they're able to read minds and know things that only you know. For example, the so-called shotgun statements are a key weapon in a fake psychic's arsenal. Shotgun statements are where a person will literally talk like a shotgun, firing out names and titles until they land with someone who's watching. Chances are, if you talk about the ghost of someone's mother and use a name that's commonplace in society, I'm hearing something from a Mary, I gotta marry someone, you'll fool someone who lost their mother with that same generic name. It's the law of averages more than the power of the mind in this case. Now, number 1 on our list is also number 4? There's a famous song with the lyric that 3 is the magic number. Well, I'm here to tell you that song is lying. It's actually 4 that's magic, as our next trick will show you. There's a sum that will always result in the number 4. Don't believe me? Well, check out the steps to this calculation and be amazed. First, think of a number. Multiply that by 3, which, as I said, is most definitely not the magic number. Then add 12. Divide that by 3, and then you need to think back to the original number you came up with. All right, take that away from what you had, and you'll be left with 4. With this formula, you will constantly land on 4. It's cool, isn't it? So why not go and try it on your friends? But before you do, I have one more thing to ask you, which that question is coming up in just a second. Now, I hope our video didn't boggle your mind too much. This list showed you more tricks than a magician after several cups of coffee. When we hear the word bacon, apart from the immediate brain muscle memory of its incredible smell, we immediately picture it sizzling in a frying pan. However, there are easier ways to prepare your favorite breakfast meat, such as, your microwave. Before you run away in disgust, try this at least once. Place a paper towel on a dish and arrange the strips of bacon on top, not touching. Cook for 3 minutes on high, covered with another paper towel. Give the bacon a minute or 2 to cool down before transferring it to another paper towel to absorb the excess fat. The next step, you can thank us later. Just make sure it's not crispy. Crunchy bacon's still awful. That can be crunchy. That's meant to be crunchy. Meat, not meant to be crunchy. Absolutely not. Who wants crunchy meat? I'm not kidding. Name another meat that you like crunchy. Fried chicken doesn't count. That's not the meat. That's the skin. There are only a few things more unpleasant than peeling fresh garlic with its hard and sticky, odorous residue that just clings to your fingers for days. Luckily, we came across a very neat hack on TikTok. Next time your recipe asks for a clove, microwave it for up to 30 seconds. That terribly little icky skin will just peel right off. The only snag? Well, depending on the power of your microwave, 30 seconds may turn your garlic mushy. To be safe, start by cooking it for 15 to 20 seconds to find your microwave's sweet spot. There's another way. I do know this. Basically what you do, you take your garlic, you break all the cloves or whatever, you throw it in there to skin and everything. Not a lot. You want maybe a few, maybe a handful. You take 2 bowls and you put them together and you just shake vigorously. It comes out. So this one works too. Try both. Let me know which one you like. This coming Thanksgiving, when cooking an entire turkey or chicken, remember to ice the breast of the bird.
As dark thigh meat takes longer to cook than white breast meat, cooling the breasts will guarantee even cooking. We know what you're thinking. Icing? Yeah, because that's what we're thinking. It's more straightforward than it sounds. When you take the turkey out of the refrigerator to bring it to room temperature, put ice packs or bags of ice on the turkey breast. This simple trick can make the breasts up to 15 degrees Fahrenheit colder than the rest of the bird, which means they can take up to an hour longer to cook than if they weren't iced, which allows the dark meat enough time to cook without drying out the rest. Using an electric hand mixer is a simple alternative for individuals who would rather avoid the repetitive arm exercises that comes with mashing potatoes. A hand mixer not only saves time, but also ensures a lump-free mash every time. However, please note that we recommend a hand mixer, not a hand blender. A hand blender, or immersion blender, will extract too much starch from the potatoes, producing thick, gluey mashed potatoes. As an added benefit, when using a hand mixer, you can add more liquid and oil while avoiding releasing too much starch from the potatoes. If you hadn't known that before, well then, you're very welcome. And that's a wrap. And if you're in the mood to learn even more weird stuff, check out our related video, 25 jaw-dropping facts you definitely won't learn in school. It's packed with strange history and surprising science. Quick, sharp, and way less stressful than today's list. Hit that subscribe button, you know you wanna, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new drop. And I'll catch you again next time.